the clock shows 3 seconds. There is time for the Russians to go to their big man, Alexander Belov. They're going to try. Alexander Belov between 2 American defenders.
I would say it was a slight confusion and misunderstanding.
When Dr. Jones died, I sent 2 people to tap the earth to make sure he was in there. So we lived with this one a long time.
We had a group of players who I'd call a bit crazy. We didn't care who we were playing. We never showed any fear and looked them straight in the eye.
And it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen and experienced in a basketball game. And, you know, to this day, I can't believe it.
In 1972, after an unbeaten streak of 63 games, the United States lost its first game in Olympic competition to its ideological rival, the Soviet Union, amid an uproar of controversy. The American players voted to refuse their silver medals. They believed they'd been cheated. But the full story began long before those fateful 3 seconds of controversy.
We had, I think, a total of about 4 weeks practice. Which, when you look back at it, and after my international experience, it's amazing that we even believed that we should win against some of these teams after being together for only 4 weeks. We really did not know how tough those guys were. They had a couple of top-notch international, world-class basketball players. And aside from that, as a team, they were a machine. I mean, they had played together for years and years and years. And I think we probably were not as relaxed as we should have been, or else we might have been able to take advantage of our speed more so than we did. But as a result, we were in a kind of a controlled type game where execution was vital. And for the first half, at least, they executed to perfection their game plan, and we struggled with ours.
Going into the locker room down 26-21 at the half, the Americans realized a gold medal was not a foregone conclusion. With their backs against the wall, they began to stage a comeback.
It came more out of desperation and our own undying spirit. You know, I don't know if it was youth or an American spirit or whatever it was, but at some point during that game, we realized that if we didn't pick it up, we were going to get beat. We just kept looking at each other with like bewilderment on our faces, like, you know, when are we going to get going? When are we going to start playing? And at somewhere around the middle of the second half, after being behind the whole first half, we started picking it up and running, and we pressed them, and we created turnover after turnover after turnover, which resulted in fast break baskets, and we saw the scared look on their face, which kind of fueled our desire even more, and we just kept pushing, trying to win that game.
I think in that last minute, we weren't so much afraid of losing, but of actually winning. That's why we lost our lead.
And it all came down to the last minute of play where we were behind one and we created another turnover, and we started off in transition towards our basket with the time running down.
4 seconds. Doug Collins goes into the basket support. Doug Collins going up with number 6, second Deladese.
So much attention has been focused on the American sense of outrage about this game that the Soviet point of view has rarely been considered.
Basically, it was a tragedy for me. The long path that I had taken to that victory as a person, as a sportsman, was almost all over, taken away in one split second. One bad pass by Alexander Belov, intercepted by Collins, who got 2 foul shots.
But then a sequence of events began which has shrouded the basketball world in confusion and controversy, intense passions and debate for more than 20 years.
Our Russian official and Hank Iba were yelling at each other, and Bedlam has taken over here at the basketball hall. The United States leads.
To the best of my knowledge, Vladimir Kondrashin, the Soviet coach, called a timeout, and evidently the buzzer did not work. At that time, you called timeout by a tag, which was a light that went to the scorer's table.
Many viewers fail to understand that at that time in international competition, the coach and not the players called the timeout. As subsequent material will reveal, it's the legitimacy of this timeout which is the only genuine area of controversy. Though mistakes and misconceptions were to follow, a dispassionate perspective 20 years after the fact will show that confusion, not conspiracy, ruled the day.
Baseball is insane. Doug Collins has tied it up.
It all began when Doug Collins stepped up for his second free throw. This is when, according to official FIBA rules at the time, the timeout should have been called. When the referee hands the ball to Collins, a new play phase begins, and play cannot be stopped until there's a foul or violation. The confusion begins when the horn sounds while Collins is shooting his second free throw.
We never saw the official indicate that foul, but Doug Collins...
The referee under the basket clearly indicates the play on. However, the outside referee responds to the scorer's bench without hesitation and stops play. His position on the court shows that he had no doubt that a timeout was to be awarded. Now things really start to get interesting.
The United States leads now 50-49.
Dr. Jones came out of the stands in a most unusual and not clarifying the rules and demanded that the two referees put the 3 seconds back on the clock to give Kondrashin his timeout.
And the intervention of Mr. Jones in that time was absolutely illegal because he was the president of the technical commission, and the table made mistakes. And his intervention was to correct the mistakes of the table. And normally for the spectators and for the American team especially, it was something unbelievable.
He had absolutely no idea what was going on. And I guess in general, the consensus at our bench was, even though we don't understand it, let's go ahead and do it to get it over with and get out of here.
At that moment when Kondrashin took that timeout, it was horrible. I felt it was like what happens before someone dies, when they see their whole life pass before them. All the work we'd put in, all that training, all the sacrifices, it all flashed before me. I felt as if all hope was lost and that our lives had come crashing down.
The Russians got their timeout and a chance to plan their final strategy. The version of events seen on American television really fueled the fires of controversy.
Now you have me totally confused. They're changing the clock is what they're doing. They're going back to...
A director's cutaway to the scoreboard didn't allow the home audience to get a clear view of the actual unfolding of events. The ecstatic American celebrations were unfortunately premature. The repeated sounding of the horn in the background is an unnoticed signal that something is amiss.
Doug Collins driving was fouled by Sakandelides.
A second look at the scoreboard indicates that the clock had not been properly reset to 3 seconds. The entire play, in other words, should never have taken place. In the excitement of the moment, the referee placed the ball at the disposal of the Soviets too soon.
So we'll have to speculate that it's all over.
A second look will show that the scorer's bench tried to stop the play. It's interesting to ponder how the history of basketball might have been changed if their efforts had been noticed. The premature sounding of the horn, even before the ball is received inbounds, and the desperate gesturing at the scorer's bench indicate that they were aware of the mistake that was occurring, even if nobody else in the arena seemed to be.
There are another 3 seconds less.
American celebrations are cut short as the clock is wound down to 3 seconds.
Move the clock back down to the 3 seconds.
From this point on, a series of widely shared misconceptions cloud most people's interpretations of the final historic play.
The second time, the referee waved our player, who was Tom Burleson, 7'4", back from the entrance line.
It was in fact Tom McMillan and not Burleson, and the video evidence clearly shows that the referee properly indicated the plane of the baseline that Tom McMillan could not cross. For some reason on this play, McMillan chose to step back and not contest the inbounds pass as he had done earlier.
Deshko had, by normal standards, 3 violations on the play. Stepped over the line.
For the Russians to go to their big man, Alexander Belov.
As can be seen, Adeshko's foot is close but does not touch the baseline. His right foot crosses the line only after he's released the ball.
The 3-second count goes on immediately upon the referee handing the ball to the throw-in person.
In question here is the 3 seconds in the key rule.
They're going to try.
Not only would the 3-second count have to be extremely quick, but from the momentum of the bodies, it appears that Belov started well outside the key.
Ivan Dideshko threw the ball to Alexander Belov, who charged at least one of our 2 players, Kevin Joyce.
Clearly, Kevin Joyce passes behind Belov. No blame should be laid on anyone for this play. It was just a supremely athletic effort by Alexander Belov.
Alexander Belov.
Just 4 years later, this Soviet hero was to die mysteriously in a Soviet prison after being detained for smuggling blue jeans into his country.
Like I said, I think it showed the other teams, other countries, that you could beat the Americans. Everyone thought it was impossible to win. They had this aura of invincibility. Sure, it was hard playing against them, but if you got a few crazy guys, like I said before, then anything's possible.
Complete American dominance had ended, but what may have stung national pride in the U.S. was good for basketball throughout the rest of the world. America's leading role was never in doubt, but the chance to honestly challenge the best has inspired the development of a truly international basketball competition. The time has now probably come to put the beast of Munich to rest. America was not cheated. Perhaps the moment is approaching when those silver medals can finally be accepted.
We had never lost a game up until that point. Of course, those 12 guys still didn't feel like we hadn't lost a game. But, you know, if you look at it realistically and you look at it in retrospect, I think it was kind of a wake-up call letting us know that, hey, there's some other teams out there.